Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to our Government and Service Brown Bag Lunch from our speaking series. This is a panel to discuss people who are at MOCS now and either now or in the past have been a part of some kind of public service or nonprofit or something of that nature. And I think we all know we're not in government for the money, so these are probably a good group of people to talk to if you want to know what kind of things you can do in this arena. So I wanted to start it out, just give everybody a chance. We'll go in order to just give your background, discuss your history of public service, what led you to that decision, and anything else you want to share off the bat. We'll start with Vignesh.
Hey everyone, my name is Vignesh Mahan. I'm currently the GC Legal Fellow with MOCS. I guess in terms of my service background, in college I was a volunteer health educator, and I also was a mentor in an elementary school at a school nearby my college. While I was in law school, I worked with the New Jersey Attorney General's office for after my first year of school. And then now I'm here at MOCS.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gabby Katz, or Gabrielle Katz. So I was an international affairs major in college at James Madison University, and I was a part of the foreign service organization Delta Phi Epsilon. We did a lot of assistance and fundraising for a lot of NGOs. Working to help humanitarian crises, and post-grad I worked both in tutoring for kids of all ages, and then did a term of service with AmeriCorps and CCC last year, where I spent 10 months traveling around the West Coast doing direct service hands-on in all types of capacities on a team. And that's how I found out about the AmeriCorps Vista program, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm the Vista member here at MOCS.
Thank you. My name is Noah Rose, an Assistant Director in MOCS's Learning and Development team. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer. I served United States Peace Corps in the Republic of Moldova from 1994 to 1996. I was the first American in the town of Dondershen, which is about 10 to 15 kilometers south of the Ukrainian border. When I came back, I worked in government and actually with the Department of Social Services for 19 years, and it's a pleasure to be at MOCS. Thank you.
Great, thanks everyone. And just something a little personal. Favorite part of New York City and why? We might need a microphone back down on this end.
I think my favorite part of New York is how interconnected it is. I grew up in the suburbs, and you know, if you wanted to get anywhere, you needed to pretty much, you have to like pester your parents to drive you anywhere to see someone. But I think it's amazing that you can pretty much get anywhere in the city and see like so many different things. That ease of access is, I think, unparalleled, and that's my favorite part about the city.
Could not co-sign that more. As another person from the suburbs, it's crazy how easy it is, how accessible everything is in the city.
I agree, as someone also from the suburbs. Super cool to be able to work in the city. I think I have a lot of favorite parts, but I recently found out the other day that there is an active cable car that like passengers can take. Is it to Randall's Island or something?
Roosevelt Island.
Roosevelt Island, yeah. And I did not know that, and it was really cool to see. I saw it coming down the line. So that's currently my favorite part.
One of the most beautiful parts of the city is the Morningside Heights area where I live, and Riverside Church, the tallest church in the United States. It's quite remarkable, very beautiful to be inside and just see also the exterior parts.
Definitely agree on that also. And cool to learn two things. I had no idea about both of those. Very interesting. I have to check out that church and the cable car actually. since we started a little bit late, I'm gonna move right into it. Enough easy questions. So, how do we define, what does public service mean to you? When you think of that, what immediately comes to mind?
I think when I hear public service, I think about someone doing any sort of work that is for like a greater public purpose. You know, it's not just about yourself or your specific goals, and it's about making a larger impact in the community in which you live, or just a broader group of people you may never even meet.
Yeah, public service, that has changed a lot for me over the years, just like the definition of it, and I think it does depend on circumstance, but I agree with Vinesh in that way, and that I think of equity and just like making sure that things are equitable across the board for all people involved in all communities, including like everything from disaster relief to resources to just growth and the ability to grow. That's what it needs to be.
Yeah, just to dovetail on what Gabby said, I think it's really serving the social good to solve problems and improve people's lives.
That actually dovetails really nicely into the next thing I wanted to ask, which is how do you measure success? I don't know if if that changed a lot based on the macro to micro difference, I guess, if you know.
Yeah, I think we have to ask ourselves a few questions. Are more people getting food stamps? Are the trains running on time? Are fewer people dying of illness? Those are three of the questions we ask. Because if there are fewer people dying, if the trains are running on time, more people are getting a hot meal on their table, then we're doing a good job.
Kind of a more like a statistically grounded way to look at it. I can see that also.
Going off of what LK said, I think I'm a pretty good prime example of how she noted more people moving from international affairs into the more local schema, because I was a major in international affairs with the goal of entering that field, potentially might still, but it has definitely opened my eyes moving from that more macro level to the micro and being able to see in real time how differences can be made, even if it's just one person at a time. And I've come to find that to be very fulfilling. When I left college, I had a year and then I did my last term of service with AmeriCorps, and that involved doing very hands-on service up and down the West Coast, everything from working in food banks to refugee assistance to building trails at camps, renovating YMCA recreation centers, you name it. And that to me was a good chance to see success or the process of success in real time. Especially, they very much emphasize, and something I really have come to hold as a value, is communicating with the communities that you are assisting. I think feedback from communities is the best way to measure success, instead of going in and then doing the work and leaving. People who have lived where they have for a long time can probably be the best to speak to change and if things are moving in a good direction, I think.
James, going off of what you said, I think, you know, it can be hard to quantify, you know, the impact of your public service at times, of course. You know, MOCS and other agencies, you know, we survey those in the city who use our services, and that is definitely one way to make sure that our, you know, efforts are not wasted and that they're going to the right places and the right time. I think in addition to that, I think generally making sure that the work you're doing adheres to like the public ideals and just objectives of your organization, I think is, you know, it's not an easy way to like measure it, but I think, you know, going in and day out, if you feel that the work you're doing generally is upholding the public ideals and the missions of the organization where you're working, you know, I think you're doing an excellent job, and that's what matters. I think a lot of, you know, like in terms of like public service work and government work, people don't always see the, you know, the behind behind the scenes work that goes on to make things happen. And I think for us, when you're in the agency, just knowing that even if you're doing the tiniest task that moves it forward, I think that is meaningful. And as long as you're doing it honestly and you're doing it in a way that preserves like public resources, I think that's a good way to like measure if you're doing the right thing.
I think I kind of look at it a similar way in like that it's a marathon, not a sprint. You kind of have to remind yourself that if the work you're doing is still aligned with, like you say, the goals that you and the organization are set out towards achieving, maybe that's some kind of a way that you can be assured that you're having an impact. I want to circle back on something that you said, Gabby. When you originally wanted to go into international relations, but you pivoted to doing AmeriCorps and doing much more local stuff, was there a particular person or like a mentor who encouraged you to make that change, or just someone who guided you generally?
That's a great question. In all honesty, a large part of it was due to national circumstance of COVID when it occurred, because I graduated in class of 2020, which was interesting, and was figuring out where to go from there, because I did have hopes of working in an international organization that was on the ground. And then I was encouraged definitely by my parents and others. I had a few friends who had done AmeriCorps prior to me, and I wanted to know how I could still help and do the work that I wanted to do in terms of humanitarian assistance, but in a different, more accessible way, given what was happening. And they encouraged me very much to follow into AmeriCorps. And since then, I've had a variety of different mentors that I really respect and looked up to. I mean, my Vista leader, Kira, who she leads me currently, but she was also my team leader in my last program. And so she has seen me grow and watched, we've worked together very collaboratively and extensively. So that's been great. And Ilke has also been a wonderful mentor to me. She is one of my 4 supervisors here at MOCS, including Verena, who's in the audience, Misato and Tammy, and their guidance has been like a huge help and eye-opening in the work that I do.
You gotta kind of take pieces from everywhere, I guess. Same question to the rest of the panel. If anyone feels particularly like they want to shout out, or if they had somebody who really they feel like pushed them down their path. What about you, Noah? I can imagine being the first American ever in that village, it was probably pretty important to have an outside contact to consult with every now and then.
Well, I don't know, I try to keep in touch with my parents. I don't know, I remember one of the first days of college, one of the administrators said, "Oh, your parents, remember they're the best friends you'll ever have." So having that support from my parents, so that they, as I grow older, they appear smarter and smarter every day. And also some of the mentors in college. I went to Grinnell College in Iowa, and one of the political science professors who I didn't actually take a course with, but I talked with him, he said, well, the Peace Corps is probably a good place to go before you want to make a decision on going to graduate school. And he kind of said in a cynical way, well, I don't know, he was a little snarky. He was a Brooklyn, New Yorker who came to Iowa to become a professor. He said, oh, it's a good place to hide. And it was also a good place to learn more about myself and to think more about my career.
Interesting. And Vignesh's a very independently minded person. That's completely fine also.
No, I think going off of Ilke's point, I don't think I think professionally I didn't have like just one like specific like mentor. I think more so it was like the experiences that I've had in different settings that really, helped shape my like path so far. After my first year of law school, I was at the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and that was my first time in like a government organization. And the unit that I was in, it was the banking and insurance section. It was about like 12 to 14 attorneys, and I think just working there was a wonderful like introduction into public service because you know, most of the attorneys there, you know, I feel like you were able to like come into work and you had like kind of clarity in thinking in terms of like the cases that you were taking on, and there was always like the larger sense that you're doing this for the public good. You're making sure that like you know, the you know, like bad actors are being held accountable, and I think just that experience was very formative, and I think it pretty much instilled in me that I do want to like continue with like public service in the long run. Yeah.
I find it really interesting that everyone kind of says it's not just like one person, it's a whole group of people that end up contributing to who you end up being. And I think that in a way that can kind of produce, that helps, you know, motivate you internally also, but like maybe it produces different outcomes, you know, for the organization as a whole. I want to throw it out to the panel. What do you think are kind of what are the benefits that come out of having a group of people like yourselves that all work in the same organization, but all come from like such different viewpoints, and not even from, you know, one different point of view. You're all coming at it from like 5 different places. Like I find that very interesting. What do you think are the benefits of that to an organization like MOCS?
I think if it enhances our ability to solve problems and to also just first understand like different sides to the problem. You know, maybe someone with like a different professional background or personal background, they have a different insight into a certain issue that comes before the agency, and as a result of that, and as a result of their skills and knowledge, you're able to craft, you know, a better solution that ultimately will benefit the public. And having more people and more voices with these like varied experiences just strengthens the agency as a whole and our ability to, you know, live up to our mission.
Thank you. Yeah, going off of that, I think that to best assist, you know, the city and the community that you're in, it's good to have a team that reflects the communities you're helping. And I think I was completely blown away and really admired and appreciative of how diverse MOCS is, both in like background and experience and expertise level and skill level. I've been fortunate enough that my VISTA position allows me to work cross-collaboratively across 3 or 4 different teams in the agency, and that has opened my eyes and given me much more perspective as to how much goes into the work we do to help people. And it all different angles, as James said, like it's really, I think, important to everyone is still able to learn from each other, no matter how old you are, no matter how much experience you have. There's always something to be learned and gained, and I think that is a really big asset that doesn't go unnoticed at MOCS.
Yeah, I think the data show that diversity leads to strong organizations. That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, it's about, I guess, not being afraid to challenge yourself too. Kind of to that point, and we'll go down the road for this also. Can you think of a moment where you kind of realized, you know, oh, my worldview has changed as a result of like hearing, you know, on an issue or a debate that you've had with somebody in the office or at any point throughout your career? Have you ever had a real moment of like, oh my gosh, I never ever would have thought of it that way until I had spoken to somebody coming at it from your position?
Need to think about that.
I know, that's one to ruminate on for sure, but I thought maybe if anyone has like an aha, perfect.
The main thing I do as the VISTA member is I work with the discretionary portfolio for City Council, specific to nonprofits who are awarded each year funding, and through that I have been able to work in assisting so many different nonprofits and speaking to so many, both through ILCA's team and both the learning and development team and the service desk team, and it's a constant reminder of challenging yourself and empathy as well, because it is very easy to I think fall into kind of the one way of thinking. If you do the same thing every day, it's very easy to have your perspective not limit itself, but just be like, oh yeah, this is just another day, I'm just doing the work. But when I do screen shares with nonprofits and they express their concerns or frustrations to me, it's like, right, that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and right, this is what's important. And it is very grounding and humbling in its own way every time. That on top of specifically working with the learning and development team who create resources for these nonprofits and also other vendors throughout the city, these resources are meant to be as accessible as possible, and I've learned so much from their team with regards to how to construct them and to put them together that I wouldn't have otherwise thought to appreciate or look for. And now my brain is rewired to look for all the little things that the learning and development team do.
Yeah, I think you guys have inspired me to tell a very short story. An aha moment, and when I was in the Peace Corps, I was on a train going north to the town where I was working, and I was in a car with people, and I didn't know their name actually. I never found out who they were, but they had wine, they had cutlets, and we just ate together. It was no question, and that's something that would never happen in the United States. So maybe we come to teach English, but maybe we can learn a little bit about some of the hospitality, because that was such wonderful hospitality, and that was a trademark of Moldovan culture.
That's a very cool story. I like that one.
I think, I mean, this wasn't necessarily like an argument or anything like that, but with Andy and Doug, I think working with them on like discrete like legal issues has been very like eye-opening, because I'm a junior lawyer, and like I think coming out of law school, a lot of us are trained to look at the purely like legal solutions to problems. So a lot of it ends up being like a lot of the solutions you come up with require you to like go to court or go to an administrative agency and so on and so forth. But I think working at MOCS and working with Annie and Doug, I think it's interesting to see how you don't always just have like one solution. And I think it comes not only from our place as a public agency, but also because of like the diversity of perspectives we have in MOCS. I think there's certainly like different avenues to pursue in order to solve a problem, and I think that has really helped like my professional development for sure. And I think it's also helped me see like the larger picture on things. Like everything we do like, as an agency has an impact, and from like the smallest like news headline, we have like different ways to help people. It doesn't always have to be like going to court or anything like that, but there's a lot of power in like working with like the public to get things done as well.
Then all those good reasons being true, all those incredible experiences coming out of your service, the question still is in my head, why not just be private? Why not just make some money and be comfortable for a little bit, Wondering if anybody has any passionate feelings on that. I mean, I personally, I think it's very, in the least corny way possible, it helps you get out of bed in the morning knowing that you're not working. Like, I would have a very tough time being happy about staying late at the office sometimes if I was just like helping sales of some product or other go up, especially being in a place like New York City where, like Ilke and Gabby kind of alluded to, there is so much inequality and so much that needs to be done that sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming to be thinking like, oh my God, are we really trying to tackle this new problem? Like, what must it be like just getting to work, at an Uber or something like that, or staying at a private law firm like you. And again, no one has to weigh in on this. This is maybe my own personal anxiety seeping through a little bit.
I think the difference with public service is that you have more of a sense of ownership, I think, because at the end of the day, you are also a part of the city that you're working for. And you know, everything that you're doing for the public, you're also doing for yourself, your friends, your family, and again, like people you may not ever know, you may not run into. And I think that sense of ownership, I think is powerful, because I think in the private sector, the issue is that a lot of the times, you don't have as much of a direct connection to the thing that you're working on. You know, you may not own the company, you may not own that deal or whatever, but I think with public service, it is different in that sense.
I really like that point you made of being able to feel ownership. Getting to walk around the city every day and see little things that we worked on and that we have helped bring to fruition, that we've helped get done, I guess, is what keeps you going sometimes.
I was just gonna say, I feel like anytime, so I know that at one of our meetings, we talked about the low boathouse, and anytime one of my friends mentioned it once, and I thought about the FCRC team.
Yeah, that's a very specific pain point, but it was a very cool thing to work on for a little bit. I think I'm not alone in saying that sometimes it does feel like it's, because of some of the unique concerns that government has, it can be very resistant to change and very hard to feel like you're actually able to get things done sometimes. How do you guys kind of handle that feeling, and how do you like motivate yourselves to tackle these things from a position of strength? How do you overcome a difficult problem, I guess, in a government setting?
I think I feel like when I've run into like difficult situations, you know, I think like our immediate team has been extremely helpful, and I think the people at MOCS are an amazing resource for each other, you know, and you know, I don't even know if there's like one specific instance, but like I feel like a lot of the times when we do have like difficult issues in the GC team, you know, Jennifer and I often just like, you know, jump on like a Teams call and just like think things through. We just discuss, and I think that, you know, the environment that we have in our agency of just like, you know, having more collaboration, I think is super helpful in you know, addressing these problems, and also just alleviating any fears they may have about like crafting the right like solution. So yeah, I think just, you know, relying on the people on our team, and just being open about like your thoughts and trying to figure out the solution is like a good way to go about it.
Yeah, that has been something I've grappled with for like a while, of, you know, affecting change and seeing progress if it's not tangible, or if it's slow going. It goes back to that macro versus micro conversation that came up earlier. I think that is part of why I've really come to appreciate city government, which I never thought, honestly, that I would end up in. I didn't know much about it until I was in it, and but I try to remind myself, as simple as it might be, just like any progress is good progress, like really even slow moving progress. You know, the discretionary funding cycle, as OK knows so very well, is a lengthy one and a complex one, and sometimes all that can be done is pointing someone in the right direction of a appropriate resource or a contact, or giving them one tip, or letting them talk to you, like listening. That's progress. I think a lot of nonprofits sometimes feel unheard, or like no one's listening, and so giving them an ear to speak to the problems and concerns they have, I think is still something good and still progress in its own way.
Well, the private sector is very valuable, but we mustn't forget the government does a lot of heavy lifting. I mean, the government is put a person on the moon. The government helped to defeat totalitarianism, continues to do that today. The government helped to stop the vaccine for COVID-19. So the government can do things very fast and very effective. And MOCS is a very effective organization.
It goes back to what you guys all said before about the benefit of having people with different experiences, that you get to use that different experience at some point, hopefully. And that actually all kind of, this kind of dovetails nicely into the last section. We just had a few questions from the audience I wanted to get everyone's opinion on. So I think this first question is good because we have two people here who are supervisors and then two people here who have been interns in some programs that are not the easiest to get into, certainly. So I'm curious, and we don't know who asked these, but just I'm co-signing onto this one. What are some things that you feel you've done that have been helpful to either getting that difficult posting or that slot, or getting a promotion? What do you think are some behaviors that you've personally developed that have helped you be successful in your careers?
Well, that's very kind of whoever submitted that question and of you to say, James, but I guess maybe this is really simplistic because I am still very early in my career, but keeping an open mind to opportunities, as I've alluded to, when I was applying to the VISTA program, which collaborates with NYC Service, they have multiple host sites that you can be placed at and that you can apply to, and so I applied to multiple, including MOCS, and with all the love in the world, I did not know anything about MOCS going in. I did not know much about procurement, and I was a little bit hesitant because of that. But to be completely honest, having my phone call interview with all of my now supervisors, so Ilke, Tammy, Verena, and Masato, completely made me want to sign on because I got to hear from all of them and their experience and their perspectives, and I took that leap of faith of, you know what, this feels like a good group of people, and if these are supervisors that I get to work with, I'm sure the rest of the office is just as wonderful and there's a lot to learn, and they inspired me to do that. And so just keeping an open mind, I guess, and not also selling yourself short, because I did not know anything about procurement and now I do it every day. So that is also something to keep in mind, I guess.
Just, I don't know if anyone else had anything to add on that last question, but if not, we'll finish it off with a good one. Most rewarding moment in your career or in recent memory, up to you. For me, Boathouse is up there. That was my one.
I remember in the Peace Corps we had a few students go to the United States to study in high school exchanges, and getting the phone call from the nonprofit that was based in Chisinau, the capital of Moldova. Yes, Irina is going to be going for a year to the United States, and that was something unheard of for a young person in a small town of 15,000. I was the first person, I'm the first person in the United States there, and then a year later, 2 years later, she's studying an exchange program. That was very rewarding.
Anyone else? It doesn't have to be something that was literally life-changing for somebody. That was quite a high bar, but definitely rewarding.
Sorry. Yeah. There's so many, it feels like, but in my last program, my team was pulled for disaster relief in El Paso, Texas to assist with the Afghan refugee crisis. We spent 6 weeks doing that from November of 2021 to December, and we did everything. We worked at Fort Bliss in New Mexico, where we did everything from clothing and shoe distribution and sizing to baby bag packing for that Save the Children provided, like little bags, and we put baby supplies in there and handed them out, which was my personal favorite because I got to see all the little babies. And warehouse organization and distribution, childcare. We did so many different things, and we got to meet the guests that were there and speak to them and learn about their experiences, and that in itself was a very rewarding thing, and rewarding, but also, you know, I learned so much from them, and it learned a lot professionally and personally, especially, you know, in the context of public service where you don't want to fall into the complex of like the white savior either. That was something that, you know, we learned a lot about, and cultural diversity. There was so much, and it was really rewarding when oftentimes we assisted with childcare when parents would be in the final presentation for when they were being sent to their next location, their final location in the country where they would be set up with like a home. And getting to see that from start to finish was really, really something different and nice.
I think one of the most rewarding moments was when I was nearing the end of law school, but I was in a community clinic, legal clinic, and we were able to help one of the local nonprofits with a legal risk audit. So, you know, they've been operating in the Nashville area for quite a long time, but they had a lot of plans to, you know, grow in the Tennessee area. They wanted to really branch out, and it was just rewarding to see the, you know, the results of our work help them grow. And I think it was the first time that I was able to work with someone else to pretty much like lead a representation, so that was very, I think, memorable too.
All right, well, with that, I think we'll close the book on this, guys. I hope everybody I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. I think it shows we have some really intelligent, really like inquisitive and very kind, hardworking people who've been willing to share with us, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, you guys. So thank you so much for joining, and thanks to everyone who came to watch, both here and online.
Thank you.